This is an exclusive conversation with Lord Karan Bilimoria, who is joining me in London over Zoom over this historic win that we are looking at. Lord Bilimoria, thank you so much for joining us here on India Today Global. I just wanted to know, how does it feel for a Labour Party to come to power after 14 years of Conservative rule?
This is a tremendous achievement by Keir Starmer to win this historic victory, one of the largest victories ever in our parliamentary history in the past decades. For example, Tony Blair won a very serious victory in 1997. This is equal to that, and to win over 400 seats, that's only ever happened less than a handful of times in the history of this country. So what he's done is quite phenomenal. The country desperately needs change. And that's been the message of the Labour Party in their campaign. But also, he has made it very clear that his own party has changed as well. The party that lost to Boris Johnson was led by Jeremy Corbyn. The nation didn't want an extreme left-wing person like Jeremy Corbyn running the country. They were scared of that. And that's why Boris Johnson won his big majority of 80 seats going back to 2019. Keir Starmer's taken all the spirit to change the country, to change his party, to change the party over the last 5 years. And that's what I think he's going to do in going forward as well.
We're outside 10 Downing Street over here, and it is a moment of jubilation for all the Labour supporters who've come out here just to get a glimpse of the new Prime Minister, Lord Bilimoria. But the fact is that at the end of the day, there are many challenges. How do you see Prime Minister Starmer address those challenges? We have the tax challenge, economy, healthcare, and the illegal immigration. At a time when we're looking at a very splintered Conservative Party and a cohesive Labour Party, will that cohesive party be able to deliver?
Yes, with a Labour Party with such a large, what we call a supermajority, is now in a position to confidently put forward and press forward with its agenda. And they made it very clear. Their agenda is not going to be what business is very scared of an extreme left-wing agenda, putting up taxes and taxing the wealthy and overspending and not looking after finances. He and his Chancellor, Finance Minister Rachel Reeves, are saying they're going to be very sensible. They are using terms like wealth creation. They want to create wealth because they know they've got to grow the economy. And that growth of the economy is going to create the jobs, that's going to pay for the taxes, that are going to pay for the public services. So they're very clear about that. What they're also very clear about is the mess that we've been in over the past years. And that all started 8 years ago with Brexit in 2016. That Brexit vote, which was a huge mistake by this country, has caused nothing but turmoil with 5 prime ministers. I don't know how many finance ministers, how many cabinet ministers, and the country has not done well at all. We've had very low growth, if not no growth, low productivity, and the Labour Party needs to bring that back, and needs to bring back stability as well as investment in our public services. The waiting list in the NHS, almost 8 million people waiting. Investment is not coming into the country. This country, I was always proud, as a magnet for inward investment. We were always the second largest recipient of inward investment in the world. We're no longer that, but we should be that. We have a strong, hard and soft power. Now is the time to create that stability the country desperately needs after the turmoil of the Conservative Party over the past few years. And also, when it comes to India, the attitude towards a country like India, the attitude towards immigration.
I'll come to India. That's a very important question. So I'll come to it. But before that, let me just ask you about Rishi Sunak, his speech where he conceded defeat. What did you make of the speech? It was rather one where he almost felt hurt and stung, and quite aggrieved with the kind of result that was put forth. So what did you make of his speech and the way he conceded defeat?
When I was awarded Asian of the Year in 2002 by the Home Secretary at the time, David Blunkett, now Lord Blunkett, in my acceptance speech, I said, in my lifetime, there will be an Asian as Prime Minister of this country. It took 2 decades, exactly 2 decades. In 2022, Rishi Sunak became Prime Minister. And we were so proud. The Indian community around the world, the 40 million of us, the diaspora, the whole of India, the 1.4 billion people rejoiced that we had an Indian origin Prime Minister in number 10 Downing Street. However, what a disappointment he has been. He's a good man. He's a friend of mine. I've known him through his father-in-law, Narayan Murthy, who was the Indian co-chair of the Indo-British Partnership when I was the UK co-chair of the Indo-British Partnership 21 years ago. I knew Rishi Sunak before he became an MP. He and his wife Akshata are lovely, decent people. He's clever, he's hardworking, he's dedicated. But I'm afraid to say he has not listened. He's put up taxes to the highest level since the Second World War, the highest level in 70 years. He's put up corporation tax from 19% to 25%. His attitude towards immigration, coming from an Indian origin prime minister, I was very surprised by. His anti-international student stance, wanting to send asylum seekers to Rwanda. What an inhuman thing to do. What an economically illiterate thing to do, and even possibly breaking international law. So all these things that he led, I was very surprised by, but I cannot for 1 minute doubt his intentions of being a decent, hardworking man, but it's been a big disappointment. And his party at the moment, he's saying sorry to them. They are furious. He called this election without consulting even his cabinet. It was a big mistake to call this election now, and it's shown in this big defeat. And many, many hundreds of his MPs, including cabinet ministers, have lost their seats. They're not going to be happy with him at all.
Well, Sir Keir Starmer, will he be able to then bring down taxes? We're talking about taxes. He did not have an answer to that during the debate. Will he be able to do that?
What I've said to Keir Starmer and to Rachel Reeves, and I've worked closely with them when I was president of the Confederation of British Industry, the equivalent of the CII in India. I got to know them very well, and I kept emphasizing the most tax-friendly government I have worked with in my 3 decades of business has been the Tony Blair, Gordon Brown Labour government from 1997 until 2010. They had entrepreneurs relief of £10 million, low rates of capital gains tax at 18%, the top rate of income tax at 40%. They were really business friendly. And I said, that's the position you've got to be in. If you can do that, you'll be far more business friendly than this Conservative government has been, who've been putting up taxes. But what Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves have said, there's no overnight fix. This is going to take time. And by the way, they're looking at a long horizon. Just look at history. Margaret Thatcher and John Major, Conservative Party for 18 years. Tony Blair and Gordon Brown, 13 years. The last 14 years, Conservative-led government. So Keir Starmer's looking 15 years ahead. He's got a long time now with a strong majority to really put into place strong foundations for growth and prosperity for our country.
Right. Do you think the Starmer government will be able to reverse the decisions when it comes to visas, international students, and work permits for for foreign students?
What I do know is I've been in the House of Lords for 18 years. Soon after I joined in 2007 and 2008, I led cross-party support to bring in the 2-year post-graduation work visa, the graduate route that we now call it, for all international students. Of course, I wanted that for Indian students as a former international student myself. It was a Labour government that listened and brought that in 2008. It was taken away by the Conservatives in 2012 and brought back in 2021. And you can see the effect of it. Indian students have now overtaken the Chinese, the largest international students. So the Labour government has listened in the past. They are pro-international students. They don't have a hostile approach to immigration in the way that Rishi Sunak's government did. They have a much more friendly, sensible approach to immigration. And the net migration figures at the moment include international students. They should be excluded from the net migration figures. They would come down a lot. I hope the Labour government listens.
Lord Bilimoria, now coming to the India question, do you think the work that was done between Modi administration and the Conservative government here will be furthered by the Labour government? Because we have seen in the recent past or through the years comments being made on India's human rights record, Kashmir even. Do you think that will certainly come and become one of the a part of the discourse, or will the focus be furthering ties, the FTA that still has not come through? What's the focus going to be for the Labour government?
Some of these perceptions about the Labour government and its attitude towards India are quite frankly outdated. I mean, they go back over 25 years ago when we talk about the late Robin Cook and some remarks he made. We can also talk about Jeremy Corbyn and people being worried with somebody like him, who I've said is an extreme left-winger, has his own very extreme views, which the country did not vote for. You have now a sensible Labour government. And a sensible Labour government is very, very pro-India. In fact, David Lammy, who might be the next foreign secretary, at the India Global Forum conference just a few days ago, I was there. He could not have been more clear about India being a #1 priority country for the Labour government, without doubt, and that the free trade agreement that has been taking so long to conclude is now ready to be concluded. 14 rounds of negotiations are over. Now that both our elections are over, 1 month apart, 4th of June, the Indian elections over, 4th of July, the UK elections are over. Now's the time to seal that free trade agreement. And by the way, we do almost 39 billion pounds of trade between our countries. We should be doing much more than that. We're just scratching the surface. And here's a missed opportunity. The last big prime ministerial delegation to India, do you know when that was? It was in November 2016, almost 8 years ago. And we've had an Indian origin prime minister for almost 2 years, and he did not take a large delegation of cabinet ministers and business leaders and the press and university leaders like I've gone on with Tony Blair and Gordon Brown and David Cameron. He didn't do it. What a missed opportunity. First thing Keir Starmer's got to do is to take a big delegation to India to show that we mean business and that India is going to be our strong, strong partner, not just in trade, but also in security and in defense.
And final question, will Indian origin MPs find space in the cabinet and government? And how important has the Indian community become here in British society and British politics?
On that, one cannot criticize the Conservative government over the past years. There have been several Indian origin MPs who've been ministers, who've been in cabinet, let alone prime minister. And I'm sure that will continue now with the Labour government. And the Indians in this country, I'm so proud. We make up 1.7 million people, which is tiny out of the 68 million population, but the Indians are doing so well. We've reached the very top in every profession you can imagine. In Parliament now, the ethnic minorities, there were 5 in 1987 when I was at Cambridge University. 25 years later, when I was in Parliament, there were 69 of us. At the last election, 2019, there were almost 100 of us. When we take that picture on the steps in Westminster Hall after this election, I'm sure there'll be well over 100 ethnic minority MPs. So I think that glass ceiling has now been shattered. I'm the first person, not just of Indian origin, but ethnic minority to have become president of the Confederation of British Industry in its history. I'm the first Indian origin chancellor of the University of Birmingham, one of our biggest, strongest Russell Group universities, top 100 in the world. So I'm so proud of what this country's allowed people like me to achieve. There is no end to it. So I'm very confident that we'll continue even more with the Labour government under Keir Starmer.
On that note, Lord Bilimoria, thank you so much for joining us here on India Today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.